In January 2024, two insurance investigators made their way to the Taipei Criminal Investigation Unit in Taiwan. They were there to file a report representing different insurance companies, yet united in their concerns about a recent case. The investigators exchanged wary glances, understanding the implications of the insurance policies linked to Liang Ganchang, a 33-year-old man whose recent purchase of travel accident insurance had now thrust him into the center of a troubling investigation. The investigators revealed a staggering total insurance payout of approximately 1.6 million US dollars, approved just a day before the tragic death of Liang Ganchang on December 15, 2023. The timing was too coincidental, and both investigators felt an unsettling disquiet in their instincts. Accompanying them was Ganchang's father, a man whose suspicions mirrored those of the investigators. He believed that his son's untimely death was far from an accident. Ganchang, a child from his father's previous marriage, had endured a difficult life marked by challenges. From a young age, Ganchang had battled polio, which left him with mobility issues and classified him as disabled. After divorcing his first wife, Ganchang's father had remarried, but his son's struggles led him to live a transient life, often without a fixed address, and ultimately homeless due to long-term unemployment. It was through the insurance investigators that Ganchang's father learned of his son's death, and the circumstances surrounding it struck him as deeply strange. How could a son, who could barely afford basic necessities, manage a trip to mainland China just days before his demise? Even more baffling was the fact that Ganchang had registered for marriage on November 23, mere weeks prior to his death. He had taken out substantial insurance before the trip, naming a daughter-in-law he had never met as the beneficiary. With these revelations, the police began to sense an undercurrent of deceit. The insurance investigators pressed on, detailing how Ganchang's wife, Lian Yuxiang, was a striking 29-year-old woman. Yuxiang claimed that both she and Ganchang had been employees at a local homestay, where their professional relationship blossomed into romance. The insurance investigators uncovered a striking detail. Ganchang's wife, Lian Yuxiang, was a captivating 29-year-old woman. In her account, she painted a picture of a tragic widowhood, claiming that both she and Ganchang were employees at a local homestay. Yet, the atmosphere of joy was shattered when Ganchang tragically slipped and fell from a cliff, resulting in his death. Just prior to the trip, Yuxiang, fearing the worst, had taken it upon herself to purchase travel accident insurance from two different companies at the airport. In the aftermath, Yuxiang expressed her grievances, stating that despite having all the necessary documentation for the insurance claim and explaining the situation repeatedly, the insurance companies were stonewalling her. She lamented the cruel twist of fate that had made her a widow so soon after their marriage, now compounded by the struggles against the insurance companies, who seemed to prey on her vulnerability. With her emotions running high, Yuxiang threatened to go to the press if the insurance companies continued to deny her claims, underscoring that the accident had occurred during a company trip with colleagues. In a heartfelt lament, Yuxiang expressed how devastating it was to become a widow so soon after their marriage. She insisted that now, the insurance companies were adding insult to injury, complicating matters for a woman already vulnerable in her grief. With a determined edge in her voice, she threatened to reach out to the press to expose the insurance company's refusal to pay, underscoring that the accident had transpired during a company trip with colleagues. In their quest for clarity, investigators sought out Mingjiang and Jingchai. They confirmed the trip was indeed an employee benefit excursion, a 5-day journey to Hang Shan Mountain, meticulously organized by a travel agency. On that fateful day, after a morning filled with sightseeing alongside the tour group, everyone returned to the hotel for lunch. However, as the fog rolled in thick after their meal, the tour guide advised rest at the hotel. While most of the tourists chose to stay behind, Mingjiang, Jingchai, and Ganchang felt emboldened. They reasoned that such a beautiful location could not harbor any real danger, compelling them to venture out. Determined to make the most of their trip, they decided to break away from the group and explore Shushan Peak, one of Huangshan's 36 minor peaks. With steep cliffs on 3 sides and 1,000-foot drops, the peak was both alluring and treacherous. At an impressive elevation of 5,520 feet, the view from Shushan Peak resembled a celestial paradise. The trio successfully ascended and took turns photographing each other against the railing, making their journey feel worthwhile. As Ganchang snapped photos of his companions, he was eager for a second shot. Lighting a cigarette while preparing for another picture, fate took a grim turn. In an instant, His foot slipped backward, and due to the dangerously low railing behind him, he plummeted over the cliff. In frantic response, Ming Jiang and Jing Chai raced down the mountain to alert the tour guide at the hotel. Without delay, the guide contacted the police, who later discovered Gan Chang's lifeless body. After a thorough examination, authorities issued a death certificate, attributing his demise to a fall from height. The very next day, Yuxiang made the decision to cremate Gan Chang's body, a heart-wrenching act of finality. She returned with her 2 colleagues, carrying both the ashes and the necessary documentation, promptly filing claims with the insurance companies. While the testimonies of Yuxiang and the 2 colleagues appeared to align perfectly, crafting a seemingly complete narrative, closer scrutiny unveiled troubling inconsistencies. A 38-year-old disabled man, lacking a fixed address or savings, had suddenly encountered a whirlwind of life-altering events in less than a month: a promotion with a raise, marriage to a stunning woman, the acquisition of high-value insurance, a trip to China, and then an unfortunate accident leading to his death. Nothing about this sequence seemed plausible. According to the tour guide and the travel agency personnel, the trip had initially been planned as a honeymoon for Yuxiang and Gan Chang. Yet, unexpectedly, 2 other men had joined them, raising further questions about the circumstances surrounding Gan Chang's tragic fall. In a bewildering turn of events, Liang Ganchang found himself swept into a whirlwind of life changes within just a month. He received a promotion accompanied by a raise, celebrated a marriage to a stunning woman, took out a high-value insurance policy, embarked on a trip to China, and ultimately met a tragic end in what was deemed an accident. Yet, the pieces of this puzzling story failed to align. As recounted by the tour guide and travel agency personnel, the journey had originally been planned as a honeymoon for Liang Yuxiang and Liang Ganchang. However, without warning, 2 other men suddenly joined the trip, raising eyebrows and igniting suspicions. Meanwhile, Liang Yuxiang had joined the group under the guise of a corporate benefit trip. Following the tragic incident, both her travel companions and Yuxiang exhibited an unsettling calm that persisted into the following day. Strikingly, neither of the 2 colleagues attended the funeral of the deceased. The investigation took a perplexing turn, revealing a case rife with irregularities. While numerous suspicious elements surfaced, the question loomed: how should the police navigate this complex investigation? Witness statements interlocked seamlessly, presenting a tight logic that seemed credible. Yet, what deeply unsettled the officers was the nature of cliff fall incidents. Even with a body present, establishing whether it was an accident could prove immensely challenging. As the officers delved deeper, they recognized the need for a strategic approach. The intricate puzzle demanded careful consideration as they contemplated the next steps in their investigation. In the shadowy world of crime, where evidence can vanish in an instant, the situation surrounding the victim was dire. With the body cremated, all physical traces of the crime had been obliterated. Faced with this daunting challenge, the police turned their focus to the victim's social connections and financial dealings. As they delved deeper into their investigation, the police uncovered a troubling truth. The victim had been juggling multiple jobs across several companies, even holding management positions at some. A review of the employee lists revealed a web of overlapping names that raised red flags. Each month, salaries for these supposed employees would vanish from their accounts almost as soon as they appeared. It wasn't long before the police discovered that these individuals wielded multiple credit cards, some managing their payments diligently, while others spiraled into crippling debt, teetering on the brink of financial ruin. The investigation further revealed a concerning trend: phone numbers and registered addresses were shared among these individuals. This overlap hinted at a dark reality: these people were not real employees. Instead, the companies they worked for were mere facades, or shells, hiding a more insidious operation. The police identified a total of 15 such shell companies, quickly suspecting that a gang was orchestrating a scheme involving credit card fraud and loan scams, using these fictitious employees as unwitting pawns. Among the faceless crowd of fake employees, one name stood out starkly: Li Xianjiang. As the owner of the Lao Tong homestay and a branch director at a well-known real estate brokerage, he appeared to hold the strongest financial position. The police surmised that he likely operated at a high level within the gang. Despite these revelations, the police struggled to establish a direct link between Li Xianjiang and the tragic death of Liang Ganchang. In a tactical move, they decided to first approach Liang Yuxiang, an undercover officer posing as a colleague of an insurance investigator. Under the guise of discussing an insurance claim, Yuxiang arranged a meeting with Li Xianjiang at a local cafe. Displaying a steely demeanor, she even invited television reporters to amplify the pressure on the insurance company, drawing curious eyes to the situation. Observers, including police and insurance investigators, found Yuxiang's behavior peculiar. In the wake of her husband's death, she exhibited no signs of mourning, her focus unwaveringly fixated on demanding the insurance payout rather than expressing sorrow. While Yuxiang recounted a tale of love blossoming between her and Gan Chang during their time at work, she skillfully sidestepped critical questions, revealing a calculated intent behind her words. During this tense exchange, the police observed two men loitering outside the cafe, their eyes fixed on the meeting. As the mystery deepened, the police decided to trace the license plate of the vehicle that had been following them. Their investigation led them to a startling conclusion: the car belonged to none other than Li Xianjiang himself. This discovery further cemented their suspicions. Li Xianjiang was undoubtedly a pivotal player in the gang and had connections to Gan Chang's demise. With this critical piece of evidence in hand, the police escalated their efforts, initiating wiretaps on the phones of Li Xianjiang and his accomplices. What they unearthed from their conversations was a chilling insight into the trio's intricate criminal methodology. The police initiated wiretaps on the phones belonging to Li Xianjiang and his accomplices. As they monitored the conversations, a chilling three-step criminal methodology began to unfold before their eyes. The gang's sinister operation began with a calculated approach to the vulnerable. They targeted homeless individuals near train stations and bus terminals, enticing them with false promises of employment jobs that involved merely holding advertising boards coupled with the allure of free room and board. Once these unsuspecting individuals took the bait, the gang swiftly tightened their grip, exploiting their identities to create a fake of legitimate employment through shell companies. Under this deceptive guise, these fake employees received salaries, presenting the illusion of a steady monthly income. With this fabricated income in place, the gang exploited these identities to obtain credit cards. They made monthly charges while paying just the minimum interest, a calculated move designed to artificially inflate credit scores. This insidious phase of their scheme was chillingly dubbed nurturing. The nurturing phase could last anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and in some cases even extend to 2 or 3 years. When the victims achieved sufficient credit scores and became eligible for loans, the gang pounced, applying for large sums of money in their names. Once the money was secured, Shen Jiang, the gang's leader, utilized his position at a real estate brokerage to engage in buying and selling properties for profit. Meanwhile, the banks were left waiting, their debts unpaid. The cycle continued as the fake employees were eventually discarded once they faced bankruptcy, leaving a trail of unpaid mortgage and credit card debts. As police delved deeper into the case, they uncovered that a series of banks had fallen victim to this elaborate scam, as indicated by the incomplete statistics that surfaced. Over the years, this gang had amassed a staggering profit of at least $3.3 million through their nefarious methods. While it was clear that Shen Jiang and his accomplices were engaged in extensive financial crimes, the connection to the murder of Liang Jianshang remained shrouded in mystery. However, the police's wiretaps began to unveil critical insights. Shen Jiang emerged as the gang's leader, frequently issuing commands to his subordinates over the phone. In these conversations, Shen Jiang lamented recent failed investments and expressed an urgent need for money, presenting a compelling motive for the murder of Liang Ganchang, with the intention to collect insurance money. Complicating matters, it was revealed that Shen Jiang was involved in an illicit affair with the victim's legal wife, Lian Yuxiang. The pieces of this insurance fraud murder plot were beginning to align ominously, but to secure a prosecution, the police needed concrete evidence. Armed with evidence of the gang's financial crimes, the police had ample justification to search Li Xianjiang's homestay, known as Lao Tong's house. Located in the historic district of Tamsu, this homestay offered a cozy atmosphere, reasonable prices, and a picturesque view of the Tamsu River, making it a popular destination for tourists over the years. Lao Tong's house had maintained an impressive A-grade rating and attracted a steady stream of guests. Situated within a historic building, the homestay occupied the 4th through 7th floors, with the 4th floor dedicated to office space. Li Xianjiang's homestay boasted an A-grade rating, drawing in countless guests. Nestled within a historic district, this establishment occupied the upper floors of an old building. The 4th floor was designated as office space, while the 5th and 6th floors hosted guest accommodations, and the 7th floor served as staff dormitories. During their search, police uncovered a trove of loan-related documents in the fourth-floor office, hinting at potential financial misconduct. As they continued their examination of the guest rooms, which were spacious and well-appointed, nothing appeared out of the ordinary. However, upon reaching the seventh floor, the initial rooms, though simpler, resembled standard staff quarters. Only room 709 stood ominously locked. When officers requested the staff to open it, they were met with resistance. The staff insisted it was merely a storage room. Their nervous demeanor, however, betrayed their unease. The staff's incessant pacing revealed their anxiety. If the room was just for storage, why was it secured? The barrage of questions from the police intensified the suspicion surrounding the situation. Recognizing the urgency, the officers forcibly retrieved the key and unlocked the door. A horrendous stench assaulted them as they entered the dim confines of the room, a mere 54 square feet, where 5 individuals were being held captive. Conditions in the room were abysmal. All 5 captives appeared pale and emaciated, with some so frail they struggled to move. Upon the sudden entry of strangers, they cowered in fear, avoiding eye contact and remaining silent, even as the police announced their presence. As the police pulled back the heavy curtain, a scene of horror unfolded. The captives were forced to live, eat, and attend to their sanitation needs within the confines of this single room. A lone bed, covered in blackened, moldy bedding, occupied the space, where one individual lay too weak to even rise. Gradually, as the reality of their rescue sank in, the victims began to recount their harrowing stories. They revealed their backgrounds as homeless individuals scattered across various areas, including Taipei, New Taipei, and Taoyuan. Li Xianjiang and his accomplices had lured them in with enticing promises of stable employment. Deceptively lured under the guise of job interviews, victims found themselves imprisoned within the confines of a homestead. Outside the room, a filthy, foul-smelling refrigerator loomed, a grim testament to their plight. This refrigerator served as their sole food source. When the police finally pried it open, they were met with a horrifying sight: only spoiled liquid food in plastic bags, exuding an unbearable stench. Ironically, just a floor below, cheerful tourists lounged in cozy homestay rooms, blissfully ignorant of the horrors unfolding directly above them, where individuals were held captive and subjected to abuse. When these victims ceased to be profitable or grew too ill to serve any purpose, they were discarded in parks, left to face a grim fate. Among them, some had endured captivity for as long as 2 years. Yet, the thought of escape never crossed their minds. They understood that those who ventured from room 709 rarely survived, and even if they did manage to flee, they had nowhere else to turn. Facing the harsh reality of life on the streets, many resigned themselves to their fate. Names like Song Jingchai and Lian Yuxiang lingered in their minds. They were the enforcers, the ones who would arrive to beat those who dared to disobey, forcing them to kneel and consume leftover scraps. The police acted swiftly, arresting 4 primary suspects: Li Xianjiang, Lian Yuxiang, Ming Jiang, and Song Jingchai. During a search of room 709, they uncovered documents that hinted at a larger network. These documents listed over 10 homeless individuals, suggesting the possibility of more victims beyond the known cases, including Gan Cheng. This revelation marked the case as particularly grave. However, the evidence at their disposal was limited. Compounding the issue was the potential for the suspects to collude. After consulting with prosecutors, the police opted to administer lie detector tests to all 4 suspects. Despite failing the tests, each suspect stubbornly adhered to their original statements. The investigation into the Hang Shan incident was fraught with challenges, particularly in gathering substantial evidence. To complicate matters further, the victim's body had been cremated, seemingly obliterating all traces of evidence. Yet a collection of photographs supplied by insurance investigators unveiled critical flaws in the case. Ming Jiang and Song Jingchai had taken a series of photographs, which they willingly provided, claiming they would demonstrate the victim's accidental fall. This set comprised 6 images arranged in chronological order, beginning with the first shot. In the initial frames, Ming Jiang and Song Jingchai posed together with the victim, who stood behind the camera as the photographer. The second and third photos featured the victim, captured during what Ming Jiang and Song Jingchai described as a casual smoking session, where, as fate would have it, the victim slipped and fell. The fourth and fifth photos depicted the scene post-fall. While nearly identical, the images showcased only slight variations in angle, further adding to the mystery. Notably, The victim was absent from the latter images. The final photo offered a panoramic view of the perilous terrain of Shan Peak. Yet, within these 6 photos lay a significant inconsistency regarding the demeanor of Mingjiang and Song Jingchai throughout the sequence. The behavior of Mingjiang and Song Jingchai starkly contrasted with what one might expect from witnesses of an accident. Instead of reacting with panic or attempting to help, they exhibited an unsettling calm. They methodically framed and captured images of the scene, even adjusting their positions to obtain different angles. Oddly enough, after departing the scene, they leisurely took an additional scenic photo of Shan Peak before alerting the authorities. Such calculated actions suggested a meticulously planned scheme. They appeared to have anticipated the accident, knowing they needed to document it thoroughly for a future insurance claim. Their excessive efforts to stage the scene revealed behaviors that defied natural human instinct in the face of tragedy. While one police team relentlessly pressed Mingjiang and Song Jingchai, another unit turned their focus to interrogating Lian Yuxiang. Yet Yuxiang exhibited the psychological resilience of a seasoned operative. No matter the barrage of accusations from the police, she maintained a stoic facade, stubbornly adhering to her original statement and vehemently denying any involvement in the imprisonment. Yuxiang's involvement escalated from mere knowledge of the operations to direct participation in the abuse of homeless individuals. Even after failing the lie detector test, she coolly pivoted to a different version of events, admitting she had knowledge of the murder plot but denying any direct involvement. She insisted that she had only learned of the plan after arriving at the scene. In an apparent attempt to evade responsibility, she deftly shifted the blame onto others and emphasized that her role had been merely cooperative in the face of adversity. In their pursuit of the truth, the police scrutinized Yuxiang's diary and social media activities. They stumbled upon a poignant status update, "Friend in heaven. Are you well? I miss you." Through further investigation, they discovered that this friend was not a person, but a poodle that Yuxiang had once owned. In fact, she was currently caring for 4 other poodles, revealing that Yuxiang's vulnerability lay in her deep emotional attachment to her pets. The police, employing a clever approach, initiated the conversation with, "Would you like to know how your dogs are doing?" This tactic immediately pierced through Yuxiang's cold exterior, igniting a flurry of anxious questions. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" Seizing on her distress, the police began to dissect the situation with Lian Yuxiang, explaining that in light of her arrest, this friend was not a person, but rather a poodle that Lian Yuxiang had previously owned. They confirmed that she was currently nurturing 4 other poodles, understanding that her emotional attachment to these animals could be the key to unraveling her defenses. The police, employing a cunning tactic, began with a seemingly innocuous question. "Would you like to know how your dogs are doing?" This inquiry instantly shattered Lian Yuxiang's icy demeanor, triggering a wave of anxiety as she began to fidget and repeatedly asked, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" Seizing this moment of vulnerability, the police proceeded to analyze the situation with Yuxiang. They clarified that following her arrest, no one was tending to her dogs, and they risked starvation if left locked away. However, out of respect for life, they had reached out to her aunt to care for them. Then, they delivered a piercing psychological blow. "We don't treat dogs' lives as worthless, yet you treat human lives as disposable. Is that right?" This statement not only starkly contrasted the police's values with Yuxiang's actions, but also forced her to grapple with the inhumanity of her own behavior. After learning that her dogs were being cared for, coupled with a relentless police interrogation, Lian Yuxiang finally succumbed to her emotions, breaking down in tears and unveiling the truth. Soon after, Mingjiang and Song Jingchai, unable to withstand the mounting pressure, confessed to their own crimes. They revealed that everything was orchestrated by Li Xianjiang, the gang leader, asserting they were merely pawns in his sinister plan. Through their testimonies, in chilling testimonies, they revealed that everything had been orchestrated by Li Xianjiang, the gang leader, who had reduced them to mere tools for his ruthless plan. The intricate structure of this criminal organization began to reveal itself. Li Xianjiang stood at the helm, orchestrating every sinister plan. His accomplice, Lian Yuxiang, played the role of his girlfriend, while Yang Mingjiang was a relative, deeply entwined in the gang's machinations. Song Jingchai had a compelling backstory. At the age of 54, he had once driven a taxi, but after facing devastating setbacks, found himself homeless. Ironically, he had also fallen victim to the deception and imprisonment wrought by Li Xianjiang's gang. Yet, due to his compliance and resourcefulness, he was drawn into the gang to oversee other homeless individuals. The criminal scheme unfolded precisely as law enforcement had anticipated. Following the marriage of Liang Gancheng and Liang Yuxiang, she began plotting their trip. She arranged a getaway to Huangshan, booking a honeymoon tour through a travel agency. However, as the departure date loomed, a dread gripped her. This was murder, and she realized she lacked the resolve to see it through. The complication arose. During the honeymoon, they couldn't involve anyone else. Therefore, Liang Yuxiang devised a scheme, transforming the honeymoon into a trip for employees, allowing Song Jingchai and Yang Mingjiang to accompany Liang Gancheng. On December 15, 2023, the four embarked on their ominous journey. Prior to their departure, Liang Yuxiang went to the airport to bid them farewell. In a chilling twist, she purchased a travel accident insurance policy worth $1.6 million. She conveyed her instructions to Song Jingchai and Yang Mingjiang. The insurance payout would only be granted if Liang Gancheng failed to return. They were compelled to execute this task, no matter the cost. Once they arrived at Huangshan, Song Jingchai and Yang Mingjiang began surveying the area. They scouted for an ideal location to strike. The day was engulfed in fog, a perfect veil for their malicious intentions. They suggested visiting the nearby Shushan Peak for photographs, inviting Liang Gancheng to join them. Oblivious to the danger, he agreed. Initially, Song Jingchai and Yang Mingjiang asked Liang Gancheng to take their photos, lowering his guard. Then, they offered to return the favor, encouraging him to pose. While Song Jingchai kept watch from a distance, Yang Mingjiang, camera in hand, slowly crept closer. As the moment approached, Yang Mingjiang pushed Liang Gancheng off the cliff. Their motivation for such a heinous act extended beyond mere insurance fraud. It stemmed from Liang Gancheng's substantial debt and his ruined credit. Li Xianjiang had exploited his identity, first boosting his credit score and then securing a home loan to purchase property under his name. Utilizing another homeless person's identity, they acquired a house under Liang Gancheng's name. This manipulation enabled him to qualify for yet another home loan. Through a series of deceitful cycles, Liang Gancheng's identity had allowed Li Xianjiang to borrow vast sums, but now it had outlived its usefulness. His death would not only yield insurance money, but it would also transform all loans in his name into bad debt, leaving banks to shoulder the loss. Further investigation uncovered that Li Xianjiang's ex-wife was Dong Xiaoyang. When police arrived on the scene, she was frantically destroying property deeds, desperately trying to erase the evidence of their nefarious activities. Further investigation uncovered that Li Xianjiang's ex-wife, Dong Xiaoyang, was destroying property deeds when the police arrived, indicating her desperate attempts to cover up the gang's crimes. Housing rights documents, identity papers, processed credit cards, and meticulously kept accounting books confirmed Dong Xiaoyang's critical role as the gang's accountant. Previous media reports had revealed that, amid the property documents and ledgers that Xiaoyang attempted to destroy, police uncovered the names of 3 officers from the Tamsui Police Department. One rescued homeless individual recounted a chilling encounter, noting that this wasn't the first time he had been saved by the police. After a previous rescue, he had seen Li Xianjiang whispering to one of the officers, leading to his swift return to room 7. In a harrowing revelation, Liang Yuxiang disclosed that, upon confessing the truth and returning to detention, she was met with threats to keep silent. These unsettling details painted a picture of Li Xianjiang receiving protection from someone powerful. The full extent of the truth remained shrouded in mystery. Information regarding Li Xianjiang himself was sparse, but it was evident that he was far from an ordinary man. In addition to serving as a branch director of a prominent real estate brokerage, he engaged in investments across auction houses, prostitution, and loan sharking, portraying a character willing to do anything for profit. After his arrest, Li Xianjiang vehemently proclaimed his innocence. He argued that as a successful businessman with millions in new Taiwan dollars and the luxury of a Mercedes, there was no motive for him to commit murder for insurance money. He dismissed claims of imprisoning homeless individuals as baseless, insisting that Room 7 was merely a sanctuary for them to rest. He claimed to offer job opportunities and freedom of movement to those he housed. Li Xianjiang rationalized the exploitation of others for illegal activities as just a strategy to increase loan limits and evade high taxes. He owned multiple properties but faced restrictions on borrowing, leading these individuals to voluntarily agree to act as nominees, receiving fees in return. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement, with Liang Gancheng being one of these nominees. Due to his poor credit score, he relied on a family member as a guarantor for loan approval. This necessity birthed the fake marriage. Regarding the insurance purchase, Li Xianjiang claimed it was thrust upon them at the airport, culminating in a tragic accident where Liang Gancheng slipped and fell. In essence, Li Xianjiang articulated his defense with eloquence during the trial, asserting that the other three were coerced into fabricating statements to incriminate him. This case, originating in 2024, endured a grueling 12 years of trials. It finally reached a conclusion in March 2020. In the initial trial, Li Xianjiang was found guilty of murder, illegal imprisonment, document forgery, and fraud, receiving a life sentence. Lian Yuxiang faced 10.5 years. During the trial, Li Xianjiang presented himself eloquently, passionately arguing his innocence. He claimed that the other three were coerced into fabricating false statements against him. This case, which began in 2024, spanned 12 grueling years of legal battles. It finally concluded in March 2020 with Li Xianjiang convicted of murder, illegal imprisonment, document forgery, and fraud, receiving a life sentence. Lian Yuxiang was sentenced to 10.5 years. Meanwhile, accomplices Song Jingchai and Yang Mingjiang received sentences of 16 and 14 years, respectively. Li Xianjiang, undeterred, repeatedly appealed his conviction, hoping for a lighter sentence. During the third trial, his sentence was further reduced to 14 years for murder and document forgery. Lian Yuxiang, who expressed remorse, was convicted of murder and sentenced to 8 years. Tragically, Song Jingchai and Yang Mingjiang passed away in prison, leading to the termination of their prosecutions. This case unveiled a disturbing reality: the exploitation of homeless individuals by criminals. From financial fraud to murder for insurance payouts, Li Xianjiang's gang exhibited unfathomable cruelty. Although justice was eventually delivered, the sentences imposed felt disproportionately light compared to the heinous acts committed by Li Xianjiang and his accomplices. The case prompts reflection on society's duty to protect its most vulnerable members. If a more robust support system existed for homeless individuals, would they have remained such easy targets for exploitation? This concludes today's case. What are your thoughts on this harrowing story? We invite you to share your opinions in the comments below. Thank you for following along, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.